This is KSL Sports Live, broadcasting from the Mountain Home Services studios.
Every time I was in the NBA and March would roll around, I was like, man, I bet it's so fun to coach college basketball in March, and here we are.
He's hot! He is unconscious, my friend!
Holy smokes, Utah State has ended the streak!
Oh, it's fun. Let the madness begin. Thanks for staying up with us tonight. We'll get you ready for conference tournaments, including red-hot BYU.
Yeah, we also have the latest on the Utah Hockey Club and their push for a Stanley Cup playoff appearance, and a busy day in the NFL. We had some big names on the move today.
But we begin with the Utah Jazz, who continue a 5-game East Coast road trip in Philly against the 76ers team that is struggling.
Yeah, the 3 worst records in the NBA secure the best lottery odds at 14%, right? The Jazz, they're holding on to that bottom 3 by 1.5 games. A loss in Philly would certainly help out that cause, of course, but the Sixers, they kind of want to lose too. They owe the Thunder their first-round draft pick this year, unless it's a top 6 pick. Currently, the Sixers are in the 7th spot, so they're incentivized to lose, right? Early on, Kyle Filipowski was going off. He hits back-to-back 3-pointers to put the Jazz up by 6 points, and then he gets 3 the old way. In transition, somehow he gets this to go, scoring through contact. He had 12 points in the first quarter. It was Micah Potter off the bench giving the Jazz a 16-point lead, 32-16, but the Sixers end the opening quarter on an 11-0 run. Former Jazz man Jared Butler steals and scores the other way. Jazz lead by 5 after 1. In the second quarter, KJ Martin, who returns to Philly for the first time since being traded to the Jazz, rises up here for the alley-oop against his former teammates. Jazz up by 1, 38-37. But the Sixers had a 38-point second quarter. Lonnie Walker, the fourth, connects for the step-back 3. The Sixers build a 43-38 lead on the next possession. Jeff Doughton Jr. also hits from 3-point range. The Sixers lead is up to 8. Johnny Juzang had a hot half. He had 13 in the half. He kept the Jazz in it with one of his 3 3-pointers, but the Jazz trailed 65-58 at halftime. The Rookie of the Month for February, Isaiah Collier, was working to keep Utah in this game. He's going to get to the rim to score 6 straight points early in the third quarter to cut the Sixers' lead to 5, 74-69. So what does Philly do in return? How about Kelly Oubre throwing down to push the lead to 7? Jared Butler torched Utah from 3-point land, first from 30 feet. Then in transition, back-to-back 3s for Butler. He's already at 15 points for the game right there. But it was Lonnie Walker doing the most damage. He had a 16-point quarter. That's the second most for him in his career in a quarter. Philadelphia takes an 18-point lead into the final quarter. The Sixers' lead grew to 22 points with 8.5 minutes left in the game. Cue a Jazz comeback? Well, yeah, led by a couple of NBA sophomores. Keontae George for 3. Then Bryce Sensabaugh, he'll pull the trigger from the corner. That started a little bit of a theme here because then Keontae comes down for another triple. That cuts the lead to 13. Of course, it makes sense that Sensabaugh hits the next one and the next one. A 16-0 Jazz run cuts the lead to 6, 110-104. Jump ahead, 10 seconds to go. Kyle Filipowski leans in for the 3 and hits to cut the lead to 3. After a pair of Philly free throws, Flip does it again from the same spot. Another 3 makes it a 2-point game. With 1 second left, Jazz not able to get the steal. Instead, the foul is called on Collier. Well, it was fun, but that'll do it. Filipowski's career-high 25 points leads the Jazz. Keontae also had 25. Collier with a double-double, 13 points, 10 assists. Jazz lose, 126-122.
I do think that there are still signs of the young players improving. It's hard in different moments when their roles grow rapidly and they're taking on more responsibility than they're used to, and in some situations, more responsibility than maybe they're ready for.
The latest lottery standings show the Jazz just 1 game ahead of the Washington Wizards for the worst record in the NBA. And I guess by ahead, I mean behind. The Jazz behind the Hornets by just percentage points. The Pelicans have lost 4 straight. They're making a push for the bottom three.
As the Utah Hockey Club continues down the final stretch of the season, they will do so without goaltender Connor Ingram, who will be out for an indefinite period of time. The NHL and the NHL Players Association announced that Ingram will receive care from the league's Player Assistance Program. Ingram has been open about his battles with mental health challenges. In the past, he received help from the Players Association program, the assistance program, in 2021 to address obsessive compulsive disorder. Connor made a post on social media today saying, "I'll be back," and explaining why he's receiving care from the program right now. He says this, "For those of you that don't know, earlier this season I lost my mother to breast cancer. After trying to make a return to playing, I have come to realize that I am not myself," Ingram wrote. "At this point in my life, I need to put my health first and take the proper time I need away to come back at 100%.
For everybody, not for the player more than for you and for me, than for everybody. I think mental health is a thing. It's important, and it's been underestimated for years. So now I think it's good to come to light and people take care of themselves, and it's important for everybody to try to help people in that regards as well.
All right, it's time we look forward to the time one of our favorite things all year, right? It's March Madness. That wait is now over. Conference tournaments either underway or beginning this week.
Yeah, the Big 12 men's tournament begins on Tuesday, but for the BYU Cougars, they won't be seeing any action until Thursday thanks to securing the number 4 seed in the tournament. BYU getting that double bye to the quarterfinals with that seed. The path to BYU's opponent begins on Tuesday, though, between Cincinnati and Oklahoma State. The winner of that game will then face Iowa State on Wednesday, and then the winner of that one will take on BYU in the quarters. Now, BYU beat Oklahoma State in their only matchup of the regular season by 16. They split the 2-game series with Cincinnati, a 28-point win and an 18-point loss, but I'm sure the Cyclones would love a rematch with the Cougars in Kansas City. The Cougars outlasting Iowa State in double overtime back on Tuesday night in Ames. Richie Saunders had 23 points, Dallin Hall 22 points off the bench, Kebakeda 15 rebounds and 3 blocks in that win that put them in that 4th place in the conference.
We won't know who we're going to play till like 1:30 before the day we're supposed to play them at 11:30. That's insane. That's actually insane. So, I think for me it's more about, obviously trying to forecast who we think it's going to be and get some things dialed in there. But, I think, what we have to be the best version of ourselves regardless of who we're playing. So there's plenty of things that we can tighten the screws on, and that'll be kind of the mentality as we go through it.
Utah will open play on Tuesday in the first round as the 11 seed. They'll take on 14 seed UCF in the nightcap at 7:30 p.m. Mountain Time in Kansas City. You see the path there. Utah played UCF once during the regular season, a heartbreaking 76-72 loss in Orlando. It turned out to be the last game for Craig Smith as Utah's head coach. The win ended UCF's 8-game losing streak, their first win in over a month at that time. Utah had a double-digit lead and came back from a double-digit deficit all in the same game. It was a roller coaster. They'd love to get revenge and keep their season alive, and a win would give them a rematch with 6-seed Kansas, who they already beat this season.
I mean, we only played them, 10 days ago. I mean, it's pretty fresh in our mind. They got us on the last second shot there late, last possession. So, I think our guys will be amped and ready to go. It's fresh in my mind in terms of what we were trying to do game plan wise, and look forward to the matchup in Kansas City.
Time for Starch Madness in Boise. Weber State won their opening game of the Big Sky tournament. Today, matchup against top seed in Northern Colorado. Weber already in a big hole in the first, down 17-2. That's when Blaze Threet drives in for 2. Weber would trail by 20 at halftime. Second half didn't get much better. Threet pulls up for 2 more. Wildcats down 52-29. Then Viliami Vartiainen, he dials in the 3-pointer. Threet had 12, Vartiainen 10. Weber loses, though, 76-52.
All right. We have to take a quick break. More college hoops coverage, including BYU and Utah State. The Aggies ready for tourney play.
And spring football full swing down in Provo with full contact practices already and a defensive unit that's looking to dominate.
We're not the least bit satisfied with 25 wins and 15-5 in the conference.
The Aggies are the 3 seed in the Mountain West tournament. Are they an NCAA tournament lock? Jared Calhoun has an opinion on that. Plus, Utah Valley is a champion and another chapter in the BYU-Utah hoop rivalry.
We're going on the ice right now with what we know works.
The Utah Hockey Club is in pursuit of a spot in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So, why did they not make any moves at the trade deadline? That answer's coming up.
Let's switch gears to the NHL. The Vancouver Canucks trying to keep pace in the Western Conference wildcard race, hosting the Dallas Stars. The Stars did the Utah Hockey Club a big favor tonight on the road. Third period, Jason Robertson puts this away with a goal to make it 3-1. And Mikko Rantanen, just acquired in a trade with the Hurricanes, has 2 goals in 2 games with the Stars. Utah now just 3 back of Vancouver. Both teams have played 63 games. Here is the latest standings in the West. The Calgary Flames, thanks to a 1-0 win over the Canadiens, have 70 points. The Canucks and Blues both have 69. The Ducks still hanging around. Utah plays them soon. Utah continues the chase for that final spot Monday night when they host the Toronto Maple Leafs at 8 p.m.
Well, that NHL trade deadline, it came and went this past week. Big stars like Seth Jones, Brad Marchand, and Mikko Rantanen all on the move, but none of them coming to Utah. The hockey club not active at the deadline. A team that is in the playoff push has plenty of assets and a lot of money to spend. You'd think that maybe they would be interested in making a splash with the trade to help make that run at the Stanley Cup playoffs in their inaugural season. But Utah likes where they're at and the flexibility to still make some big moves in the offseason. For now, GM Bill Armstrong likes seeing this roster, as currently constructed, make this push for the postseason.
I like where our group's at, and that's the other thing. You don't really want to go in there with about 20 games left, try and throw something together and see if it works. You know, we're going on the ice right now with what we know works.
Yeah, it gives us confidence. Obviously, this is a spot that this organization hasn't been in a number of years. We've been used to trading away pieces at the deadline, and so for us to still be in the hunt, that's kind of our first goal, but we've got a long way to go to reach where we want to be.
The leadership and reward, I think the room knows we're in it, we're in the fight, and we need to dig in.
Well, today in the NHL, the Seattle Kraken were taking on the Washington Capitals. In the second period, Caps up a goal. Seattle's Jordan Eberle scores with the snapshot to tie it up at 2 each. In the third period, the Caps go back in front. Connor McMichael with the shorty to put Washington up 3-2. Then another step towards history. With the empty net, Alex Ovechkin scores the 886th goal of his career. He is now 9 goals away from breaking the Great One's all-time record.
Another successful season in the books for the Utah State Aggies, the regular season, that is. They reached 25 or more wins for the 5th time in the last 7 seasons. The Aggies are seeking their 3rd ever Mountain West Tournament championship. They won it all in back-to-back years in 2019 and 2020. They await the winner of the Air Force UNLV game. They will be the late game Thursday night at the Thomas and Mack Center in Vegas, a 9:30 p.m. Mountain tip-off. Now, if the Air Force Falcons somehow pull off a miracle and beat UNLV on their home court, the Aggies would match up really well with the Academy. USU beat Air Force by a combined 69 points in 2 meetings. UNLV would be a much more interesting matchup and a different story. The Runnin' Rebels defeated Utah State 65-62 in January in Vegas, in the building they'll be competing in, handing Utah State their first Mountain West loss. Utah State would get revenge in Logan 2 weeks later, but that game was a grind. UNLV outscored the Aggies in the second half of that game.
We're not the least bit satisfied with 25 wins and 15-5 in the conference. You know, that's what the tournament's about, a chance to compete and hang a banner and win a championship. And I think it's going to be a really, really high-level tournament.
The goal for the Aggies is not just qualify for the NCAA tournament for the 6th time in 7 years, but to win in the tournament like they did last year for the first time in 23 years. Should Utah State fans be nervous if things don't go well in Vegas? Well, Joe Lenardi, bracketology for ESPN, has Utah State dropping to a 10 seed now, and among the last 4 byes, they are 2-3 in quad 1 games. Some other quality wins have disappeared because other teams haven't done their job. Wins at St. Mary's and San Diego State. Their 37 net ranking, though, is the highest in the Mountain West.
I think this game should solidify us into the NCAA tournament. I think our numbers are good enough. If you look at where our numbers are right now, we're an NCAA tournament team. You know, we've beaten really good teams. And so, you know, now it's about, to me, playing for seeding.
It'd be nice to see the running Utes back in the tournament, right? It's been 9 seasons since Utah has last been to the NCAA tournament. It was a time for a change for the Utes this week, and Utah brought change to the program with a familiar face, naming Alex Jensen as the 17th head coach in program history. Jensen brings that combination of Utah basketball legacy and tradition, as well as high-level coaching experience to the U. Jensen played at the U under Rick Majerus and was a starter on that team that went to the NCAA championship game back in 1998. He now returns to Utah with 18 years of coaching experience, 12 as an NBA assistant, with both the Jazz and the Mavericks.
I'm sure it's not going to be warm and fuzzy and flowers and chocolates, if that's what you mean.
Yeah, it's never warm and fuzzy between these two teams. BYU has now won 8 straight games after getting revenge against Utah last night. The Cougars overcame a slow first half with a 51-point second half. BYU started 0 for 13 from 3, but the shots started falling in the second half and towards the end of the first. Dawson Baker came off the bench, gave the Cougars a spark. He had 15 points. Dallin Hall ended the first half with a buzzer beater. And the Cougars never trailed in the second half. Kebakeda, the former Ute, was a tough matchup for Utah. He had 12 points and 7 rebounds. BYU used a 12-0 run to pull away. Trevin Nell with a big transition 3. The best highlight of the game was a follow dunk by a former BYU Cougar. Oh, my goodness. Hunter Erickson got some oohs and ahs from the crowd, but turnovers plagued the Utes. 17 of them led to 21 BYU points. The Cougars entered the Big 12 tourney with a lot of momentum.
Just happy for our 4 seniors, honestly, to come out here on senior night and get a win, especially against that team. We felt like we owed them one from what happened up in at their place. So just happy for our guys, to send them out of this building, which is incredible every night on a winning note.
Credit to BYU. All those seniors stepped up and they made the most of their opportunities tonight, and they really did a good job of taking advantage of us, really putting their head down and driving. They're late. Definitely was their emphasis coming out halftime, and they executed that, and credit to them.
In a bit of a surprise move this week, BYU announced on Saturday morning that both the school and women's basketball coach Amber Whiting have agreed to part ways. In 3 seasons as BYU's head coach, Whiting has posted an overall record of 45 wins and 51 losses. BYU's season came to an end earlier in the week in the Big 12 tournament in a loss against UCF. Well, Friday marked the conclusion of week 2 of spring football practices down at BYU, and it came with a live practice and full pads as the coaching staff continues to sort through a roster that has to be trimmed down to 105 by the beginning of the season. Last fall, in BYU's second season in the Big 12, the Cougars took the conference by storm with the Big 12's top-ranked defense, allowing just 19.6 points per game and 308.8 yards per game, both first in the conference. For defensive coordinator Jay Hill, he expects nothing less this fall again. The addition of Keanu Tanavasa in the middle, that'll be a big help. But he also wants this defense to play with some attitude every single down.
I think we've started in a great spot, kind of picking up where we left off. I like where we got. Adding Keanu is a huge deal. Obviously, inside that's made us more stout. I think we got to continue to get nastier and more physical as spring goes on. That edge was a critical part of why we were good last year, why we led the Big 12 in most statistical categories. It's going to be critical that the leaders step up and that we maintain or surpass where we were at last year, because we really are not content with where we are. We got to take a step forward.
We have to take a quick break. More on some big moves for the Utah Hockey Club.
And are you seeing what the Utah Jazz are doing? Yes, they're losing, but they're also getting some remarkable performances from some of their young up-and-coming stars. We've got that and BYU football wide receiver Keelan Marion. He's poised for a breakout year this fall. What he's done this spring that's catching our attention next. Who's ready for WAC Vegas?
I am.
The WAC men's basketball tournament will be tipping off on Tuesday, and the Utah Valley Wolverines have the #1 seed in the bracket, as well as a first-round bye. And look who they'll face. The winner of Tuesday night's matchup between Southern Utah and Utah Tech. Now, the Wolverines have won 18 of their last 19 games. 4 of those wins against the 2 in-state rivals. UVU's 2 wins over Southern Utah were a 2-point win on the road and a 41-point win at home. And then, of course, they swept the old Hammer rivalry with Utah Tech. Utah Valley currently on an 8-game win streak that's tied for the 10th best streak in the nation.
While many NHL teams were scrambling to make trades before Friday's deadline, the Utah Hockey Club took a different approach.
Yeah, they didn't pull off a blockbuster deal. Instead, they opted to extend the contracts of the players that have helped them get to where they currently are. It started early last week. Defenseman Olli Mata agreed to a 3-year extension. Mata was added to the Utah roster early in the season in a trade for a third-round draft pick. He's brought stability to the Utah defense and Stanley Cup winning experience, and Armstrong loves that the club could lock him up for a few more years.
And I told Oli this the other day, it's like win the lottery for us. How excited we were to have him come on board and be a part of our organization. And we were going through a tough time because we'd lost some of our key D, and he jumped in and just took hold of the reins. And the spot that we're in, competing for a playoff spot today, is because of him.
We got the keys in here to succeed, and I think what's the most impressive for me is how much guys want it in that locker room, especially when it comes to this tough stretch and important stretch. I think the want and the will, and like how willing they are to check their egos out of the door, and everybody's doing that. I think it just shows how much guys care, and it's pretty incredible to be a part of that.
Utah found a veggie that even your kids will love. Karel Vejmelka. Veggie has emerged as one of the top goalies in the league in the back half of the season on Thursday against the Red Wings. With the game tied entering the third, Utah got goals from Kevin Stenlund and Lawson Krause to take the lead, while Veggie, he held off a Detroit comeback for the win. He saved 38 of 40 shots, the most saves in a road win this season for Utah, and all of this happening the day after signing a new 5-year extension with the club.
Super easy to live here. It's a great state, great people around, and big fan base already. So that crowd, especially on the home games, they give us special energy every night. So I enjoyed every game here, and it's pretty special to play here.
The growth is unbelievable. So for Starry, it's great, but for other guys, you grew with him and knew where he was 4 years ago and where he is now. It's a great example.
Yeah, it was a big moment for me, especially for my career. So it's good to know I'm able to stay here, and I'm super pumped to bring the Stanley Cup to the Utah.
We'd love to see that happen. Utah also gave contract extensions to veteran forward Alexander Kerfoot and defenseman Ian Cole, both to 1-year contract extensions to keep them from hitting free agency this offseason. Kerfoot brings leadership to the roster and is one of the best players on the penalty kill this season. And the 36-year-old Cole is averaging a career-high 21 minutes of ice time per game and has been on the second defensive pairing with Michael Kesselring for most of the season.
And he's age 36, doing it as good as he's had in his career. It's really impressive. All right, the BYU football team has completed 2 weeks of spring football.
Yeah, and in those 2 weeks, wide receiver Keelan Marion, he's getting a lot of attention.
And for good reason. There are 14 wide receivers on BYU's spring roster, and Marion has emerged as the favorite to be the Cougars' second receiver behind Chase Roberts. A special team star. He had 24 catches for 341 yards and a touchdown last year, the most since his freshman season at UConn. And now both he and A-Rod expect him to have a breakout season on offense.
2 years ago, he didn't know what he was doing. He's just a good athlete that was trying to figure it out when Keaton Slovis was our quarterback, and we had Keelan and Darius and, these guys out here they were swimming, Parker. And then last year, Keelan knew what he was doing, and he was a really good player. And now, third year in the offense, he was running in motion the other day and coaching two guys what to do as the play was literally happening.
Just kept on studying, doing only controlling what I can control. So, coming from somewhere starting to, working your way back in a rotation, it was frustrating. It was frustrating a lot, but, it just shows that I could be a role player no matter where I go. I go somewhere someone got guys, I can definitely get into that role and play my role. I don't have to be the top guy, but I can perform like a top guy.
And a big one to midfield. He beats the kicker down the sideline. Marion, touchdown, 96 yards.
Yeah, Now, Marion was also one of the best kick returners in the country last season. He was named a first-team All-American as a returner by several outlets. He returned 18 kicks for an average of 26.2 yards per return, which was 12th in the nation, but he led the nation with 2 returns for touchdowns, one against Wyoming and another against Utah. I wonder which one he liked better, though.
That Utah. The Utah one was the first one. I know the Wyoming was crazy, but me playing in my first rivalry game ever, like, it was crazy. Like, the place went nuts. Like, I still watch it 100 times to this day because it doesn't feel real. So all I do is just, like, I can watch that thing 1,000 times and, like, it just doesn't feel real. But that was definitely my favorite moment.
You're not alone, Keelan. BYU Nation does the same. All right, back to the Jazz. Isaiah Collier, as the 29th pick in the NBA draft, is making a late season push to be in the Rookie of the Year conversation. And the NBA is taking note.
Yeah, Collier named the NBA's Rookie of the Month for February. He's not only the only young star for the Jazz that's shining on the court either. If you look around, there's several of them. How about Walker Kessler? The Jazz center continues to play outstanding in the paint. On Friday night against the Raptors, Kessler came 2 blocks short of a triple-double. The 8 blocks were amazing, but it was the career-high 25 rebounds that was really attention-grabbing, 13 on the offensive glass, 12 on defense, all of that to go along with 18 points on 8 of 11 shooting.
Rebounds have been contagious lately. How about Oscar Tshiebwe? Earlier this week against the Pelicans, the Jazz rookie had a career-high 16 points and 13 rebounds. He was plus 25 on the court. Then just 12 hours later for the Salt Lake City Stars, he pulled down 30 rebounds. Just 30 rebounds in front of 2,000 kids in a 130-127 win over the Iowa Wolves. Then he played a game again the next day that same day for the Jazz. He played 3 games in 24 hours. And Tshiebwe, he's still doing it.
Yeah, he was still crashing the boards Friday night for the Stars. 25 more rebounds against the Oklahoma City Blue. 14 of those were offensive boards. He also scored 11 points in the game. He was a plus 21 on the court in that game. Check this out. He's averaging 18.6 rebounds per game for the Stars in G League this season.
All right, Utah skiing returns to their rightful place on top of the collegiate skiing peak. The Utes celebrate a national title next. Death, taxes, and Utah skiing winning national championships. Order was restored this week. The most decorated collegiate skiing program in the country has added another national championship trophy. They returned from New Hampshire after rallying from a 3rd-place position on Wednesday. They were champs by Friday. This is the 4th national title for the Utes in 5 years, and of course, this is their 17th overall. Amazing.
Dominance. The Utah gymnastics program, they're pretty dominant too. They picked up a win in its second to last meet of the regular season, a road contest against the Washington Huskies. Grace McCollum led the Red Rocks with a 9.9 on the uneven bars and, of course, those wolf turns on the beam. She got a 9.95 on the beam. McKenna Smith recorded a team-high 9.95 on the vault and a 9.925 on the floor. The team score of 197.225, that helped bump up their national qualifying score, which currently is ranked 5th in the nation, and that's what determines who ends up going on to the NCAA championships when it's all said and done. So, way to go, Red Rocks. We expect to see them right there again, as always. That's death, taxes, Utah ski winning championships, and the Red Rocks at the NCAA championships,
yeah,
right?
No doubt. That's way too much math in that highlight. We're communication majors.
I had to get my calculator
Come
out.
on now. Jeez. Just say the Utes won. Which is what they do every week anyway.
My TI, what were those old Texas Instruments?
Texas Instruments. Hey, I bet you don't need it. You got your phone. Get the KSL Sports app. Maybe there's a calculator on there.